Tezayin Mishnah Gimel. Says the Mishnah, Matzilin sal molek koris. We may save a basket which is full of loaves of bread, even though it has enough for 100 meals. And a cake of pressed figs, which is very, very large and way more than a person would need for his Shabbos meals. And a person can also take a whole barrel of wine, which is way more than he needs for his Shabbos meals. Now the point is that even though in the previous Mishnah we said that a person can only save mozen sholosh su'udos, enough food for his Shabbos meals, if the fire breaks out on a Friday night before he's begun his 3 meals, he can take a maximum of sholosh su'udos. And even though we're talking about carrying into a place where there is an Erev anyway, nonetheless, Chazal will worry this guy is bohul al mamoneh, he's going to panic about his possessions, and if we allow him to take more food, he might come to extinguish. That is true if it's no extra tircha. But since this guy there's a whole basket of loaves of bread, he doesn't have to remove many of the loaves of bread. He can just pick up the basket and run out of the house, even though it's carrying more loaves than would be needed for his mozen sholosh su'udos. And the same is true with the igel dveila and the chovish shel yain. Okay, continues the Mishnah. And he can say to other people, those around him, he can say to them, come and save for yourselves. In other words, you're welcome to come into the house and take whatever you want, because he can only take out mozen sholosh su'udos. So if he wants to get others to come and take, he's entitled to do so. And interestingly, they can take even more than sholosh su'udos. They're not limited to take sholosh su'udos, and the reason is that he is bohul al mamoneh. He is going to panic about his possessions, and therefore Chazal limited him to carry only these things that he needs for the Shabbos meals into a chotzeh, which he can carry into anyway. The others, they're not bohul al someone else's money, and therefore they can carry freely as much as they want, because after all they're carrying into a chotzeh where there is an erev, and therefore there's no problem. Okay, continues the Mishnah. Now if these people who are working, who are schlepping backwards and forwards all the food and all the other items out of the house, osin imo cheshbon, they can do some sort of cheshbon, some sort of reckoning after Shabbos, achar Shabbos. Now this is touching on schar Shabbos. Schar Shabbos is a prohibition Chazal instituted that a person cannot take wages for melacha done on Shabbos. So for example, well, even not melacha, for work done on Shabbos. So for example, I can't take wages for looking after someone's field or babysitting, looking after someone's children done on Shabbos. The only heter way of doing it is if it's done b'havlah. For example, I get paid a weekly fee or a monthly or a yearly fee, and included in that is anything I do on Shabbos, that would be permitted. So the point over here is this, that if these people who are helping the person whose home is on fire, if they are pikchin, which means that they are knowledgeable in the halachas of Shabbos, then they will be aware that what they are doing is not actually schar Shabbos. Why? Because the owner of the house has been mafkir, he's sort of rendered ownerless the things which they are taking out. And therefore when they come along and grab all these types of food, it actually belongs to the rescuers, it belongs to them. So therefore, if after Shabbos they want to come along and say, look, we want to get paid for what we did, since the food is theirs, if they want to exchange the food which they have saved for wages, that's their prerogative. That's not a problem of schar Shabbos. But the Bartanura adds that we're dealing with Yirei Shemayim. And that means as follows. Like I just said, we're dealing with people who are not, they're taking food which is ownerless, and therefore it belongs to them. So if they want to keep the food which they've rescued, they're fully entitled to do so. But since, says the Bartanura, we're dealing, from the Gemara, we're dealing with people who Yirei Shemayim, and therefore they don't want to take advantage of this fellow, but on the other hand, they did schlep for 2 hours or however long they were running backwards and forwards, so therefore they want to be sort of compensated for the time they were involved. So therefore, if they're pikchin, if they're knowledgeable in the halachas of Shabbos, and they realize this is not a problem of schar Shabbos, because they own the food which they've taken, they can go to the fellow on Motzei Shabbos and say, look, we'll give you your food back, but listen, we were busy for 2 hours or for whatever it was, pay us X amount wages for the time that it took. That would be in order. That's how the Bartanura explains the Mishnah. But the Mefarshim also add that a truly pious person wouldn't want to take any advantage whatsoever of this person, and therefore he wouldn't want it to have anything to do with this sort of tainted money, and therefore he'd probably just return the food and he wouldn't take any wages whatsoever. Okay, Continues the Mishnah, Leheichon matzilin oison, where do you take this food out to? So as we've already discussed, lechotze hamu'ureves, you can take it out to a chotze which has an eruv where you're allowed to carry in it anyway. Ben Beseira argues, it says, after she'ena mu'ureves, you're even allowed to take it out into a chotze which is not properly mu'urev, which does not have proper eruv, but the halacha is not like Ben Beseira. That is the end of Mishnah Gimel.